What's up, you guys? Today we're going to be checking out this video right here, how to stop being a nice guy with Jordan Peterson. Now, this one is, I would say, kind of near and dear to my heart because it's something that I used to struggle with a lot, being a nice guy, right? And it was something that I had to overcome, something that I had to work on, and maybe you are here wondering how to work on it as well. And for me, it was something that I had to focus on like quite a bit, right? How to become stronger, how to become be able to confront people if needed, right? And build myself up to become a character where I wasn't a nice guy anymore, right? Because we don't respect nice guys, right? We can be strong and kind, but kindness, if you are strong and if kindness is given freely because you want to, then it's seen as a strength, which is what I wanted. But if you're Mr. Nice Guy and you can't stand up for yourself, then we have a problem, right? And you don't get the respect that you want and need and deserve. And as men, that's what we want. We want respect, right? That's like number one. You know what I'm saying? So let's get into this video. Let's check this thing out, and we will see what Dr. Jordan Peterson has to say.
And one of the things I tell agreeable people, especially if they're conscientious, is
agreeable people, yeah, because you would just agree to everything. You agree to everything, and like I said, it's not just you. Like I used to be like that.
Say what you think. Tell the truth about what you think. There's going to be things you think that you think are nasty and harsh, and they probably are nasty and harsh, but they're also probably true, and you need to bring those up to the forefront. And
one of the things that I did to break free was exactly this, which is just saying like what I think, and learning to be more direct about things. We don't beat around the bush. We don't need to. Just say what it is, and people respect that more.
Deliver the message. And it's not straightforward at all, because agreeable people do not like conflict. Not at all. They smooth the water. You know, and you can see why that is in accordance with the hypothesis that I've been putting forward. You don't want conflict around infants. It's too damn dangerous. You don't want fights to break out. You don't want anything to disturb the relative peace. You know, and if you're also more prone to being hurt physically and perhaps emotionally, you're also maybe loath to engage in the kind of high-intensity conflict that will solve problems in the short term, because it takes a lot of conflict to solve problems in the short term. And you know, if that can spiral up to where it's dangerous, which it can if it gets uncontrolled, it might be safer in the short term to keep the waters smooth and to not delve into those situations where conflict emerges.
Yeah, for the short term. But if you don't confront issues, they build up and they compound over time, and they become bigger issues, right? And this is one thing that for me, like I never learned how to like fight as a kid. Like my parents never put me in any fighting classes, and I think I wish that they had. I wish that we had been able to, that we weren't able to when I was a kid. And so I put myself into Muay Thai when I was older. And when I was in my 20s is when I started. And because I wanted that confidence that comes from being able to stand up to people if necessary. Now again, like I'm not trying to use it, but the fact that you have this capability gives you more confidence to say, okay, I can say what I think, I can stand up for myself, and if this person does something, which they probably won't, but if they were to, I would be able to handle myself confidently. And that allows you to speak more confidently, right? And that's kind of going off of a tangent, but that's one of the things that I definitely did.
The problem with that is it's not a very good medium to long-term strategy, right? Because lots of times there are things you have to talk about because they're not going to go away. But agreeable people, especially if they're really agreeable, are so agreeable that they often don't even know what they want, because they're so accustomed to living for other people and to finding out what other people want and to trying to make them comfortable and so forth, that it's harder for them to find a sense of their own desires as they move through life. And that's not, look, there's situations where that's advantageous, but it's certainly not advantageous if you're going to try to forge yourself a career. That just doesn't work at all.
No, you have to know where you want to go. You have to know what your goal is, and you have to know what you want. And if you're just trying to be agreeable and please other people all the time, how are you ever going to be able to live for yourself? How are you ever going to be able to follow your path and the things that you want to do and the life goals that you have? And it's okay, like when you have a partner and when you're married, to mix those together and things, but you have to know what you want. You have to know what your values are, and you have to be very clear on those things.
Kind of understand that. Now, the advantage to being agreeable then is that you're good in teams and you're very much likely to give other people credit. The downside of being agreeable is that you're not very good at putting forward your own interests. You know, again, this is a hypothesis in development, but I think what's happening is that, you know, your temperamental proclivity allows you to lay out a kind of radical simplification on the world. That's part of the advantage of having a temperament. So if you're a conscientious person, the world is a place to go out there and work. If you're an open person, the world is a place to go out there and discover new ideas and do artistic things. And if you're an agreeable person, the world's a place to go out there and establish intimate relationships. And they're simplifying perspectives and simplifying personalities. They're the manner in which you're adapted to a particular niche. So all of the most agreeable people are women, and all of the most disagreeable people are men.
That makes sense. Makes sense.
And the thing is, the extremes are often what matter rather than what's in the middle. And so one of the ways that's reflected in society, by the way, is there's way more men in prison.
That is definitely true. That is definitely true.
The first thing is, if you want to be criminal, the best way to do it is to be really low in agreeableness and really low in conscientiousness.
Criminals are so disagreeable, let me tell you.
Because low in agreeableness means things are for me and not for you, and you're not going to get me to do a damn thing that I don't want to do, and I'll stand my ground. And low in conscientiousness means you can do all the work, and I'll sit back and take the benefits. And so if you have someone who's really disagreeable and really unconscientious, you have someone who's starting to border on psychopath. And if you add high intelligence and high emotional stability to that, then you have someone who won't work but will reap the benefits, who doesn't give a damn about you, who's assertive as hell, and who's smart. And a person like that's also going to be charismatic, because extroverted, disagreeable people are kind of narcissistic, but they'll put themselves forward strongly, and if they don't show any signs of fear, that also indicates that they're confident, and it's easy for people to confuse that with competence. And that's how psychopaths get away with what they're doing.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And, you know, I talk about confidence quite a bit on this channel in like my educational type content, where it's just me talking, you know, and yeah, like showing no fear of attacking the things that you want, no fear in speaking with people, being confident in yourself. It gets you farther. It gets you much, much farther. And like he said, though, like if you're narcissistic and you have no grounds to be confident and you show no fear, though, people will mistake that for competence, even though you may not know what you're talking about. You're still acting confident, and people will read that as though you do have competence in that thing. But this is why confidence is so important, because if you walk into a place like you own it, nobody will ask you any questions. Like I used to run experiments with that when I was a teenager. Like, do I think could I walk into the back of this store? Could I walk into this, you know, kitchen in a restaurant? Can I walk into this movie theater without a ticket? Like without them ripping my ticket? Dude, if you walk into a place like you own it, nobody will ask you any questions. They'll just be like, oh, okay, why is he walking back here? But they won't ask you. And yeah, like big thing.
So they have to move from person to person because their reputation will track them. So, okay, so agreeable people are compassionate and polite. What are disagreeable people like? They're tough-minded, they're blunt, they're competitive, and they won't do a damn thing they don't want to do. So it isn't exactly that they're aggressive, although they will push you the hell out of their way if you're in the way. They're not like volatile like you are if you're high in neuroticism. It isn't defensive aggression. It's more like predatory aggression. It's dominance behavior. And so for someone who's highly disagreeable, they look at the world as a place in which they can compete and win. If you ask a disagreeable person what he wants, say, or she wants, they'll tell you right away. They know. It's like, this is what I want, and this is how I'm going to get it.
And I think that's good. I think that's good. You should know what you want, and you should have a clear path to get there. Like, if you want something and you want it bad enough, figure out a clear path to get there. And that is like what my entire community and coaching program and things linked down below that I do is a large part of it is about is gaining a lot of clarity on who you are, what you want, who you want to be, what you want out of life, right? and creating a plan to get there.
Because they'll tell you things, not only will they tell you things you don't know, they'll also tell you how to see the world in ways that you don't see it. And they'll also have skills that you don't have, that you could develop. So for example, if you're an introverted person, it's very useful to watch an extroverted person, because the extroverted person has ways of being in the social world that aren't natural to you, that you can use to improve your toolkit. And if you're disagreeable, one of the best things to do with disagreeable people, especially if that's alienating them from other people, for example, because it can, you know, people treat you like you're a selfish, arrogant son of a bitch, and maybe that's because you are. It's like, okay, so what do you do about that? One of the most promising treatments, let's say, for that is get the person to do something for someone else once a day, just as a practice, and learn how to do it. Maybe you can wake the circuit up, you know, if you think that it's lying dormant in you, which is probably right. You know, I think we have a very wide range of propensities within us. Some are switched on, genetic propensities. Some are switched on, but I think that if you put yourself in the right situation or walk yourself through the right exercises, you can switch some of these other things on as well. But it takes work and dedication and discipline to do it. Right? You shouldn't work at cross purposes to your temperament, because it's just too damn difficult. But having done that, then you should work on developing the skills and viewpoints that exist in the space opposite to your personality, because that's where you're fundamentally underdeveloped. And that way I think you can extend out your...
Yeah, that's true. And like I said, one of the big things that I like and that I talk about is like this character creation thing, where you can look at other people and see the traits that they have that you want, or that maybe you are underdeveloped in, like he says, and that would be of benefit to you. And you can see how they portray those, how they act in those arenas or those realms that you're unfamiliar with, that you're uncomfortable with. You can take that, take notes mentally, physically, I guess too, but take notes and then implement that in yourself. And you can absolutely, I agree with him, you can absolutely wake up that circuitry. Like, you don't have to be stuck in this box, in this one mode that you've always been. You can open up your mind and learn new skills and new behaviors and new habits. And this is very, very important, because you have that character creation ability. Character creation being like yourself and creating who you want to be and these attributes and habits that you want and the character that you want, like character traits. You can absolutely do that. I'm 100% on board with that.
your temperamental capability across a wider range. And to me, that's roughly equivalent as bringing a richer toolkit to each situation.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're hyper extroverted, you should probably learn to shut up at parties now and then and listen, just to see what's going on, to see if you can manage it, you know. And if you're introverted, well, then you should learn how to speak in public and to learn how to go to parties without hiding in the corner and saying nothing to anyone.
And this is the thing, is that I am of the camp that you can absolutely do that. You can totally learn the other side, and it may be uncomfortable, but you don't have to be stuck in, oh, I'm an extrovert, oh, I'm an introvert. You can be in the middle, both. You can be both and be introverted sometimes when you feel like it, and be extroverted sometimes when you feel like it, and you don't have to be hyper of either of them.
You know, and if you're agreeable, then you need to learn how to be disagreeable so people can't push you around. And if you're disagreeable, you need to learn how to be agreeable so that you're not an evil son of a bitch, you know. So, and the same thing applies even in the conscientious domain. It's like, if you're too conscientious, you need to learn to relax and let go a little bit. And if you're unconscientious, it's time, like, get out the Google Calendar, man, and start scheduling your day, right? And beat yourself on the back of the head with a stick until you're disciplined enough so that you can actually stick to something for some length of time and not living in absolute squalor, which is something that would characterize someone who's very disorderly, for example, because they don't notice. It doesn't bother them, disorder. It's like, maybe they can see it, but it doesn't have any emotional valence, and so it doesn't have any motivational significance.
There are definitely people like that. There are a lot of people like that, and I've been to their houses, and to me, yeah, like, I don't like it. The disorder, the chaos, the gross, right? Like, I've been to some pretty nasty places with, like, I don't even want to talk about it. It's gross, right? But like, gross everywhere. But they don't care. They don't care. And it's like he's saying, like, they just don't have any emotional significance to it. They just see it and they're like, oh, it's whatever. Like you got cat poop on the counter, bro, and you don't care, and it smells like piss all up in here, bro. How are you not caring? But that's just me. That's just me. You know, call me crazy. I've been to a lot of places like that. Ugh.
Agreeableness is a very difficult personality dimension to understand, I think, partly because it's difficult to dissociate from neuroticism and as well from extroversion. Because agreeable people like you, and so that kind of sounds like extroversion, and disagreeable people sound like they're hard to get along with, and they sort of are, but people who are high in neuroticism are hard to get along with too, and they tend to be volatile and irritable. And so most of the time, if you're engaged in a contentious issue with someone and emotions flare, it usually has more to do with trait neuroticism than with disagreeableness per se.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you got to stop. I mean, to kind of summarize this whole thing, right? Stop being so agreeable, essentially. And I feel like he was really trying to say, like, be somewhere in the middle. And that's what I feel like is sort of that sweet spot for not being a nice guy, but being a kind, strong person, right? Because, like you said, the disagreeable people, they have this very strong sort of personality. They have this confidence, this no fear. But if they're too far over here, they're extremely narcissistic, and they just don't care about anybody at all in any way, and they only care about themselves. Now, that's a problem. But if you have that sort of confidence and you can say things bluntly and you can be direct with your speech and you know what you want and you know how you're going to get there, but you also feel for people and you have emotional connections, and so you can be kind even though you are confident and have all of those attributes over here that I just described. Like, even though you are kind, you're not weak because you're not always giving in. Like, if you don't want to give in to something, you just won't, right? But if you want to help somebody and if you want to be kind, then you do. And now it's a strength and not a weakness, right? All right, you guys, that was a pretty dang good video. Make sure you subscribe. Go check out my link down below if you want to, or just keep watching some more videos, and I will catch you